Artificial scarcity as a profit technique is a concept that can be examined through the lens of biblical principles and ethics. Our logical triads framework allows us to explore the ethical considerations and spiritual implications of creating artificial scarcity, drawing on relevant biblical teachings and virtues. Balance between supply and demand is a natural market condition, but artificial scarcity disrupts this balance for profit. The biblical principle of fairness, Proverbs 11:1, a false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight, suggests that manipulating scarcity to create profit goes against divine wisdom. This principle encourages equilibrium in our dealings, emphasizing honesty and integrity. The cyclic nature of generosity and provision is illustrated in 2 Corinthians 9:6-7, where the act of sowing generously leads to reaping generously. Creating artificial scarcity interrupts this cycle, leading to a negative feedback loop of greed and dissatisfaction. The biblical narrative encourages a cycle of generosity over manipulation for gain. The causal relationship between trust in God and provision is highlighted in Matthew 6:31-33, which encourages seeking the kingdom of God above all else, with the promise that needs will be met. Artificial scarcity operates on a principle of fear and control, which reverts faith back to human manipulation, away from reliance on divine provision. Artificial scarcity often has indirect impacts, such as on the poor or vulnerable, contrasting with the biblical call to care for these groups. Proverbs 31:8-9. The reflective nature of our actions means that exploiting scarcity for profit reflects poorly on our spiritual integrity and relationship with God. The inclusion of all members of society in God's provision is a key biblical theme, Acts 4:34-35, where the early church shared everything they had. Artificial scarcity promotes avoidance of this inclusive sharing, creating barriers to access that contradict the spirit of community and mutual support. Creating artificial scarcity for profit can be a pivot point, leading individuals away from ethical behavior and towards greed. This blockage can prevent spiritual growth and understanding, as it focuses on material gain over spiritual values. The harmonic relationship between God's provision, human need, and the stewardship of resources is disrupted by artificial scarcity, creating dissonance in the divine intention for abundance and care for one another. James 5:1-6 warns against hoarding wealth in the last days. Artificial scarcity diverges from the convergence of spiritual teachings on provision, sharing, and trust in God, leading individuals away from the unity and communal support encouraged in scriptures. Acts 2:44-45. There is a synergy in trusting God's provision and acting ethically in the marketplace, which is conflicted by the practice of creating artificial scarcity, highlighting a conflict between spiritual values and unethical profit strategies. The interplay between ethical business practices and spiritual integrity is crucial for a faithful life. Artificial scarcity causes a rupture in this relationship, distancing individuals from both community and divine principles. Finally, the synthesis of biblical teachings advocates for fairness, generosity, and trust in divine provision, contrasting sharply with the collapse of moral integrity seen in the pursuit of profit.